Hey ladies, welcome back to the show. I am your host, Trisha Stefankowitz, registered dietitian, nutritionist. On our episode today, I want to talk about the mindset shifts that you need to have in order to get what you want and to achieve the goals that you desire when it comes to health, wellness, and self-care. The main thing from stopping you from getting to point A to point B is this idea of mindset. And oftentimes, I believe that we are so focused on what people do on the outside to achieve their goals. And when I talk about the outside, I mean, what did they do in terms of how many calories did they eat? What did their meal plan look like? What kind of exercise they did? How often they exercise? As opposed to looking at what are some of the mindset shifts that occurred really subtly that got them to the point A to point B, so that got them to where they started to where they ended up. And so that's what I wanted to spend some time talking about today. Before we start the episode, I am so grateful for you all being here. And the mission of this podcast is to empower women to take action and to kind of dig deep and normalize what are some of the things that keep us from achieving our goals, and some steps that we can start to take to kind of get us to a point of achieving those goals. So if you find value in this podcast and you feel like you want to help grow this community, a way that you can do that is to rate and review this podcast on the podcast app. And what that does is that helps continue the podcast to grow and just to keep going when it comes to this mission. And it helps me, it helps me get some notoriety and to continue the growth of this podcast. Also, if you feel like someone would benefit from this episode, please feel free to share this with them as well. Okay, now on to the episode. So a lot of times when we are trying to figure out what goal we're going to have, right? So if we're like, okay, I want to lose weight, I want to control my diabetes, I want to get, I want to get healthier, I want to do more physical activity. The main thing that typically tends to stop people is mindset. So I know we've all been in this place where we're like, okay, today I'm going to do it. And then, a couple of days later, maybe we don't feel that same desire and that same need to do something. And we often say that this is lack of motivation. And so this is why I wanted to talk about mindset, because there are many things in our life that we cannot control. And perhaps in our health, it's like that too. If you have some things that are familial, or you just have some other things that, there's a lot of things when it comes to health that aren't within our control. But one of the things that is within our control, and this could be good or bad, you could be cringing when I say this, is that the thoughts and the beliefs that we have about ourselves and the stories that we tell ourselves are all within our control. We are responsible. You are responsible for the thoughts and the beliefs that you have. So I know that me saying that may make you cringe, may make you feel some shame or embarrassment, maybe some defensiveness or even some denial. But owning this statement, owning this idea that you are responsible for the things that you think about yourself and the beliefs that you have will ultimately give you power to get to the point that you can make the changes, the long-term changes, that you can be in it for the long run when it comes to your health, wellness, and self-care goals. If you're somebody who is constantly beating yourself up, like again, when I'm doing some of these episodes on the podcast, I've done this, so I totally get it, and I've been there, and sometimes I still do it. But ultimately, you want to start thinking like the person that you want to become in some of the ways and the habits and the routines that they do. So why is mindset important? Well, when someone loses weight, right, or makes this dramatic health shift, we often find ourselves copying what they do to achieve exactly what they've done. So, like I talked about in the intro, the focus tends to typically be like, oh my gosh, what did you do to get to that goal? And it tends to be things that are on the outside. And a lot of times we don't take into consideration the mindset that has gotten somebody from point A to B. It's these subtle shifts that nobody talks about, but that's where the growth and the transformation happens. And so a lot of times we don't actually see or address any of these emotional changes that are happening along the way. So we don't notice, or people don't talk about, like, the beliefs that have changed, the thoughts that have changed, the empowerment and the responsibility and the ownership that has occurred along the way to get them to the goals that they've achieved. And so that's why I want to talk about this. I want to talk about these series of decisions and actions that we all make in order to get to a point to achieve the goal that we want. So to get from point A, where you are now, to point B, where you want to be. And so think about your own life when you've accomplished something. When you've accomplished something that you're really proud of, or just that you've accomplished something that might seem really minor. So typically you are at a starting point that you might feel like, I don't know if I can do it. But then somewhere along the way, you take action and you have these changes that are really subtle that get you to the end point. And so that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what is happening and what are some mindset shifts that you can do today to help you get to that place that you can start moving along the continuum of point A to point B. So what does this typically look like when people are making these changes? Typically it looks like there is some kind of growth, and that a person and you have in your past, when you've achieved some of the things that you want to do, that you get to this point that you're able to and willing to learn and to change. And somewhere along the line, you feel like that this change is actually possible. So maybe at the beginning, you don't feel like it's possible. Maybe you're blaming other people, you're blaming your circumstances, you're blaming all of the things in your life, and you're not really taking responsibility for some of the things. That's going to be really hard for you to get to a point that you can achieve your goal if you're making excuses and you feel like you want to give up easily. And maybe you feel like you want to achieve a goal, but your mindset in itself is limiting you. Well, it's probably going to be really hard for you to achieve those goals if you don't believe that you can. And so I know that, you all know that, right? I know that that's something that we all think. So I want to kind of get to like a level that it's more visceral, that you can feel it. Because what happens a lot of times is if you don't have the clarity and the belief of who you want to become, then that thinking is going to hold you back, because all those old stories are going to come back, no matter how motivated you may feel. And again, motivation, we've talked about on this show, it doesn't last. What's going to motivate you is taking action, not thinking about something. So having all of this thinking is going to hold you back. And the thinking is going to be based on probably things that maybe aren't even relevant in your life or aren't even true, and stories that we've told ourselves. They could be stories like, you're not smart enough, you're not going to be able to do it. And all those things all of those thoughts and those beliefs are going to make you feel threatened by other people's success, other people's transformations. And it's also going to allow you to give up very easily, because you don't have the confidence that you can do it. And again, I've had this. I know we've all had this. So from my own story, I've talked a lot in here about my hip. I fractured my hip when I was pregnant with my son. And the recovery 5 years later has been really difficult. It has not been easy. And it's very easy for me to not do physical activity, because I can easily blame that. That's my hip. That's my hip. I'm never going to get better. But the thing is I don't want that. I want something different. So I can't continue to have that thinking, because I'm never going to progress if I do that, right? So I know the things that I need to do, but I have to remember that I want something different and that I want to be a different person and to be able to move differently in 5 years from now. So perhaps you find yourself in that same kind of thinking. So what can we do? What can we do to make things different? And what would be the results if we were able to do that? So if you're able to change the way that you think, then you could get to a point that you could be proud of yourself, because you could get to a place that you're letting go of any of the excuses, any of the mindset junk that's holding you back. You may feel like you are developing better skills over time. You're going to probably feel inspired by others instead of feeling threatened, because you're going to be like, okay, they did it, I can do it. And so the big change is going from this place like, oh my gosh, I can't do it, and letting your mindset hold you back, to a place that you feel like, I don't know that you have to feel so confident. It's more that you have this mindset that, like, okay, maybe I can achieve this. Because again, I don't think at the beginning most people are like, oh yeah, I got this. Maybe there's some people that do that, but it's just this belief that it could be a possibility. And acting on that is what's going to get you to where you want to be. I find myself a lot of times that I have fear or anxiety holding me back, and maybe that's something that you feel too. But if I don't change my thinking about it, then I'm never going to move forward, right? And so that's the mindset that I want you to challenge. I want you to feel like you can feel inspired to make changes, no matter how small, every day, because knowing that is going to get you to the end point. If you want to be and do something different, then you're going to have to be a different person and to make other choices than you're doing now. I don't know if you do this, but I love to learn. So a lot of times, if I am trying to make a change, I get really like almost like scared. And so what I do is I learn everything about the topic, but then I don't take action. I've done that before because it's a way that I'm like holding myself back. And so that's the thing, is like, how do you get yourself from a place that you know what to do, but you're actually doing the behavior? And what I would say is that mindset, maybe it's fear for you, maybe it's anxiety for you, maybe it's you don't feel like you can do it, or you're not smart enough, or you're not worthy enough. But that ultimately is going to get you to the goal. It's not enough to think about what you want to do. You actually have to take some step forward and take some form of action, because action is the only thing that's going to get you to feel like you can perhaps do something. It's going to be the nuances of taking some small step every single day that's going to get you to where you want to be. That's going to be the magic, is how you're going to get to this place. The tactical steps of changing your mindset is going to be making these small, simple changes over time. Most people, when they're making these changes, it doesn't happen like all of a sudden one day they just snap into it. I think it ends up being this idea that a little bit of these little changes over time get you to where you want to be. I know that's been the case for me, and I know it's been the case for many of the women and men that I've worked with in the past. So what I want you to think about is, I want you to pick a person that you admire, or somebody that has accomplished something that you want to accomplish. So whether it be somebody who is fitter than you are, or somebody who eats healthier, or somebody who meal preps, and that's what you want to do. I want you to start thinking about what they do. Because remember, like, you're not going to become the person that you want to be by osmosis. It's going to require some kind of change. If you want to be different, then you have to do different things in your life. So when you're thinking about this woman that you want to be, I want you to think about some of the things, some of the habits that she does every day to get to her goal. So what does she do? Does she wake up early in the morning? Does she make sure she washes her face at night? Like, what are some of the things that she does? What do you think her day looks like? And this could be like you talking to somebody, or just somebody that some of the actions that you think they may do during the day to get them to the goal. You want to know what habits they're doing. You want to know some of the routines that they're doing, and just to really think about some of those things that they're doing. So do you have that? Do you have that person in place? Do you have that idea of some of the things they're doing, right? Think about that for a minute. Look at the behaviors, the habits, the routines, everything that they're doing. Look at what their day looks like. And then I want you to figure out how you can make those changes into your own life. And remember that that woman didn't make all of those changes at one time. It was these subtle, small, simple changes that they did over and over again. And one of the other things is they weren't like perfect. The journey wasn't perfect. So that's the next thing. It was that they made mistakes along the way that helped them grow and to really clarify what worked for them in their routine. So when I tell you to pick a person and to write some of these things down, I don't want you to copy everything that they're doing. I just want you to have a basic understanding of what it would take to get you there so that it becomes possible for you. And to remember that they didn't get there in one day. They probably got there over very many months or maybe even years. And that they made small changes every day, and that they weren't perfect because the journey isn't perfect. That they made mistakes and they adjusted their routine. And I want you to think that, because I want you to remember that everything is within your control. And if you can think about that, all you need to do is take small, imperfect, consistent steps every day, there's a lot of magic and gold in that. Because what happens is as you start to achieve these little things, then it gets you to a place that you can start to build the confidence. You can start having more motivation because you're taking action. Action is going to be the thing that is going to help you get from point A to point B. But it's also going to be the thing that helps you develop confidence and help change your mindset of where you want to be. Next, I would say is to, do what works for your life and let go of any of the timeline that might be holding you back. So perhaps you feel like, oh, I want to achieve these goals at this particular time in this particular time frame. I want you to let go of that, because ultimately any of the health, wellness, and self-care goals that you're trying to achieve is going to be a lifetime commitment of learning and changing. Because remember, you're not going to stay stagnant. There's going to be things that maybe you can do now that you won't be able to do in the future, or vice versa. Maybe right now you can't really do a lot, but in a couple of years you'll be able to. As you age, there's going to be different things that you need to do to keep up with your body, because it's just part of the aging process. So just kind of knowing that timeline is going to change, but knowing that the commitment that you have when it comes to these wellness goals is going to be ever changing. And there may be periods where you can't do a lot, and then there's periods that you can, and that's normal. But so let go of that timeline, because I don't want that to hold you back, and I don't want that to be something that in your mindset, if you haven't achieved these goals within a certain time, then you stop doing and working on those goals. And in terms of doing what works for your life, not copying somebody else. Don't copy all their things that this person that you are looking at and that you admire. Don't copy exactly what they're doing. This is just an idea to kind of have an outlet, like an outline of really getting into the the nitty-gritty of what they're doing, and knowing that in order for you to achieve that, there are going to be some things that maybe have to kind of be in the same timeline. So if you have somebody, that you're looking at and they're exercising and they've gotten really strong, so it's important for you to know that they didn't just think about maybe working out. They had a plan in place and they did that. And maybe that plan doesn't work for you, but maybe you can put together something that would be more feasible for your life, that you enjoy, but that got you off the couch and it was able to make you as strong as you want to be. Because that's the other part of it too, is you may have this image of somebody, but you might want to be different as the journey progresses. Your image of what you're capable of and who you want to become will probably likely change as well. So do what works. Do what works for you, and then pivot. Do what works for you, and then keep pivoting along the way, knowing that things are going to change and adjust as you go along this journey, which is likely going to be a lifetime commitment of learning and changing. And then lastly, I would say that if you find yourself in fear, as I often do, and perhaps you're somebody who's like that, take action anyway, because that's what's going to help. That's what's going to help give you more confidence, and it's going to help you kind of fight through that. And so an example that I can think of is a lot of women will tell me that they have a fear of going to the gym. It's not something that they have ever been really taught. Maybe they were athletic in the past, but now it just doesn't fit into their routine. Or perhaps they're a woman who never really participated in sports. Maybe that's you. And so this idea of going to the gym or doing something other than walking, walking is fine, by the way, but perhaps they're trying to challenge themselves and do something different. This idea of going to the gym is petrifying for people, which I totally get. And so this is where you would want to take action anyway. So I know that maybe you're scared to go to the gym, but you do something that forces you to just kind of do it. So my friend was in this exact place. And for many years, she was hesitant to join the gym. And then her husband joined, and she was like, oh shit, I'm joining this gym. You know who you are out there. And then she did it. But how she did it was that, you get your 2 free personal training sessions at the beginning. She did it because she realized, oh shit, I don't have a lot of experience with weights. I'm not even sure what to do. And then she hired that trainer to help her because she didn't know what to do. And so that's going to be the other way that's going to help you with the fear, is to find what you can do. Find your community that's going to help you. For her, she has the trainer that's going to help her. And then she also has me, right? So in doing that, she has a community. And that might be what you need to do. You may need to have somebody go with you. If it's something that you want to start walking, maybe you need to join a walking club. Or maybe you want to go to a gym, but you're scared. So maybe you have a friend go with you. Or maybe you're like my friend who has the trainers. And also what my friend did was that she wanted to try some of these classes. So she brought her sister in as a guest, and then they did things together. And so then that first class, she had no idea what to expect, but then she was able to have that comfort and the encouragement of her sister. And now she's done that. So she's fought that fear of doing that first class by herself. And now she's able to go more often, and she doesn't feel as scared because she's taken that step forward. So for you, I want to just encourage you that if you find yourself in fear, take action anyway. The action doesn't have to be big. It just has to be something that's going to lead you in the direction of the person and the woman that you want to be. Remember that you have to do something different if you want to be a different person than you are today. So this journey into behavior change, it takes time and effort, and it's going to require you to be uncomfortable and to be in this zone of, of, of discomfort. But knowing where you are now and really trying to figure out how your mindset and what you want to accomplish is going to give you this clear pathway to get to where you want to be to achieve your goals. And it's this idea of challenging this mindset and being uncomfortable and be willing to embrace this idea of imperfection that's going to get you to the mindset that is going to be required of you to get to the goal of the health, wellness, and self-care goal that you're really trying to achieve. So I encourage you today to start thinking of that one person that you would like to, that one person that you admire for what they're doing, and start thinking about the behaviors, the habits, the things that they do in their daily routine that help them get to their goal. But I want you to really think about in terms of what their mindset is going to look like too. So what are the things that they're doing? Are they meditating? What are the things that they do every day that they are taking into consideration their mindset? And that's what's going to help you get to the goal that you are trying to achieve. I thank you all for listening today, and I will see you guys back here next week. Thanks so much.